On this episode of the Absolutely Geek podcast, we have Cassilyn Scott. Welcome. What's going on?
Thank you. Hi.
Yeah, it's all G.
Yeah.
This is
How are you? Yeah.
I'm good. I just woke up maybe 40 minutes ago, so it's
Wait, where
yeah.
are you? But are you in Australia?
I am. Yeah.
Okay. What
Yeah.
time is it there?
It is 7:13 a.m. on Saturday morning.
Oh, wow.
Yes,
Oh,
I'm in
it's
the future.
Saturday.
Yeah, I'm in the
Oh,
future.
it's Friday in Jersey.
Exactly. I'm letting you know Saturday morning's good, so you'll have a good Saturday morning. So
Wow. Oh,
yeah,
nice. Okay, thank you for letting me know.
yeah, I'm a time traveler. That's how we get down.
That's
This
crazy.
is actually our first time talking. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah. So you guys that are listening or watching, you're getting a real first experience. Uh, now, the reason why I wanted to hit you up, and I think if people aren't aware, you have a pretty large following on TikTok. And personally, I think that there's a lot of people that maybe have grown things on other platforms to a certain degree that look at TikTok as like not really a thing or not whatever. And I just don't think of it that way. And so for me, I was like, you know what? I want to start getting some TikTok creators on just to kind of pick your guys' mind about how you guys look at the platform, what you guys like, and what your experience has kind of been on it. So like, what got you into creating content over on TikTok?
So I was on TikTok when it was like Musically. So before it was
Yes.
even,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I was on there. I didn't really make a lot of content on it. I used to make fun of it actually.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of turned into one of those things where I was like, what are these people doing with their little like hand gestures, movements? I'm like, I don't get
Right.
it. My sister was into it, like my
Okay.
younger sister. So I was kind of like, I don't know. I feel like I'm a little older for this.
Right.
But that was like, I think like 4 years ago when it was like that.
Right.
Then it changed over to TikTok. And I used to just go on there and I would just watch the videos.
Right.
Then I was like, all right, let me try making something. I'll see how it goes. And it ended up being like, I guess like fun, but I didn't want to admit it was fun type of thing
Okay.
at first. It was like one of those like guilty pleasure things where I was like, I don't want to admit that I like this.
Fair.
Yeah, because everyone had such like a thing towards it at that time. So I felt weird about it. But the hardest part, I think, was just like once I started doing it, that's when I was like, okay, now I want to get a following. Now I want to get the likes. I want to reach this algorithm. I want to get out there.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what took a while was
Mm-hmm.
trying to build that following because now the algorithm is like pretty much anyone can become famous on TikTok.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone, it like your videos will probably reach a certain amount of people no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a little hard when your video does get views, but then it's not getting the likes that you wanted.
Mm.
So when I first started, I was trying to make relatable, just like general content. I was like, okay, maybe like I'll reach someone with this. But then it turned into, okay, let me just do content that I like. And that's when it changed a lot for me.
Got it. Because I saw you more when you started when you were doing like some cosplay stuff on there. Um, and so is that really when it started to shift for you, or like when was it the big shift for you?
I started off with, I had one accidental viral video that I
Okay.
didn't think was actually gonna, I don't even know if I'm gonna say what it
I mean
was.
that's usually how it happens though. Like going viral is always an accident. The first time
Yeah,
it's like, oh what, what? It's always like that for sure.
it was a complete, like, I woke up and I was like, oh no, not this video.
Okay.
Um, it had like nothing to do with anything. It was
Mm-hmm.
just it's a little embarrassing. But after that, that's when I started. I actually did anime content.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So I was into very much into like Dragon Ball Z at the time, Dragon Ball
Mm-hmm.
Super. I started watching it. So I started off like those are the videos that really started to get me a little bit of a following in the beginning, like a
Right.
couple thousand. Cause I was like, okay, I'm having fun with this. I can joke about this. I know what I'm talking about, and other people seem to like it too.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm, I think, yeah, shortly after that is when the quarantine started happening.
Mm.
And that's when I started rewatching all the Marvel movies. And I've always loved Marvel since I was a
Mm-hmm.
kid, but I had Disney Plus. So
Yep.
there was nothing else to do. I was like, all right, let me just start rewatching all these again. I love these movies. And then I was like, all right, why don't I do Marvel content?
Mm-hmm.
And then recently, that's when I started the cosplaying.
Gotcha.
Um, but yeah, and then in between that, there was also a thing I did that got me a decent following. I did this TikTok bachelorette thing, and
Oh
I
wow. Okay.
had yeah, and that also accidentally blew up. I did it as a joke, and then it got serious, and I
Mm.
had it got like 90,000 likes.
Oh wow.
I think around just under a million views.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a ton of people on the internet trying to date me, which was an interesting experience.
I mean, I can imagine that. I mean, so because I'm guessing right now that you're like early 20s, correct?
Yeah, 23.
Okay, so you're closer to you're closer to high school than you are like not out of high school. So like going from you know how was social in high school? Like going in because like when I was in high school, the only thing that was social media was MySpace. So
Um,
yeah, this is way back. So you grew up in an era of Twitter, Snapchat, Insta, right? iPhone. I was in high school pre iPhone. So there was no apps, there was none of that. Facebook had just started, and like my senior year, I was in high school and a freshman in college at the same time. And at the time, Facebook was only if you had a college email address could you use Facebook because it was for college students only. So
wow, I
at
didn't
the
even know
time,
that.
yeah. So at the time, it was like okay, cool, I have Facebook, but nobody was really on it, and MySpace was like the thing at the time. So for you in high school, going out of high school into like I guess the adult world, how did that transition happen with social? Like how was it in high school with social media? Was it like I guess how was that? Because I never experienced social media like that through like high school.
So I grew up on the internet, like when
Mm-hmm.
all the, like, I guess the bigger social media apps were really starting to come out.
Right.
So when I was a kid, I started watching YouTube, um, elementary, very young, I think, probably to be on the internet. But that's when I started watching all these like other content creators as a kid. And I was like,
Right.
wow, when I grow up, I really want to do that.
Right.
So like I know recently you had Mari on here.
Yeah.
I grew up watching her on
That's
Smosh King.
that's so fun. That's like my older sister. That's fire. That's dope.
Yeah. So I was like freaked a little bit. I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, that's pretty insane. So I grew up watching a lot of YouTubers, but then, they started coming out with all these different apps and everything. And I guess in my time, it was Twitter and Instagram that was a really big thing,
Hmm.
and Vine.
Right.
I loved Vine. I tried going famous on that, and that was a lot harder than TikTok. It's not the same algorithm, but
Right.
I would go home and I would just sit on my phone for hours just looking at Vines
Hmm.
and just scrolling and then trying to come up with a funny idea. And they would get like 2 likes. But to me it was like the biggest thing.
Right.
Um, but then other than that, it was mainly like Instagram, which was very superficial.
Hmm.
Yeah, my Instagram's a lot better than it was in high school.
Okay.
Now, I definitely did not have a following in high school. I was very, I guess, more shy in high school than I am now. I think
Hmm.
leaving was a lot, like, once I left and got out of high school, and now I'm like out. I did 1 year in college. So after all that, I just became a lot more comfortable with myself. And I actually felt a lot more comfortable on the internet,
Hmm.
because back in, I think when I was in high school, I got made fun of for the stuff that I do now. But
Right.
now I don't think anyone cares as much. And I definitely don't care as much as I did when I was in high school. Other than that, man, so it went from that. Oh, Twitter was another big one, which
Hmm.
a lot of people were on. So Twitter has always been a little different, but I
For
think
sure.
over the years it's gotten to the point where I don't even like going on it anymore,
Mm.
just because it's so overran with like mean people, I
Okay.
guess is the best way for me to put it. So I actually don't even go on that anymore, but that was something that was big when I was in
Mm.
high school. So very like the I guess the more basic ones were big. And then
So my
yeah.
question, I guess another question I have around that is like, were people like really concerned in high school about like their followings? Like, were people like, oh, you only have this many followers, or like were there cliques around like the popular kids that had bigger followers? Like, how did that actually operate in school?
I mean, I guess at least in the school I went to, it was just
Mm,
like, okay, if you're popular, you had more followers. But I guess it wasn't like the total basis. It's just you knew they were gonna have more, so they
right.
didn't really care for your account. And
Mm,
you would try to post a photo to get attention, and you would hope it would
right.
people would come and like follow you, or like that's kind of just what it was. And yeah, it was definitely just superficial stuff that was like very basic. So now I don't think it's like that anymore. I think Instagram actually changed a lot since I was in high school,
For sure.
especially at least my experience. But now they have like the shopping stuff on there. Now they trying to get like the TikTok videos onto Instagram as well. So I
Yeah.
think now I actually have a better handle on Instagram with what it's become today than I did when I was in high school, and just
Right.
having it be like photos. And that's when everyone started posting their food a lot more
For
than
sure.
now. Now they do like the cool food videos. So it's definitely taken like, it's interesting to have been able to like, I guess, experience the changes of how all these apps and like these websites like kind of developed while I was
Mm.
growing up with them.
Yeah, I noticed the one thing that Facebook does really well, since they own Insta, is I mean, you could say it's um, cheap, or you could say that it's uh, they take advantage of shit, but I think it's smart business. They look at other platforms and they're like, okay, is that a feature or is that an actual platform? Case in point would be like stories. Like Snapchat
Mm-hmm.
was built on stories only. It was just stories. That's all it really was, right? And Facebook was like, I think that's a feature. So they added it to that. And like you look at Facebook, Insta, YouTube, Twitter has stories. Like everybody has a type of story. Um, Even with Vine, like Vine was the only really like shareable video platform at the time, right? And then
Mm-hmm.
Insta was like, we could probably put some videos in our stuff. Like, and that's really how that transition started with that. And then obviously Vine got bought by Twitter. But I mean, I feel like certain people, certain companies never can get out of how do we evolve what we have into an actual platform. And I think musically, when they got bought out by TikTok, it was a little bit different, I think, because of the discoverability of TikTok.
Yeah.
Like as far as the platform itself, even with Reels on Instagram, Instagram's biggest issue is its searchability. Like discoverability of like new content on Instagram is so much harder than it is on TikTok. TikTok has like its search algorithm is amazing.
Yeah.
You could find new people every day super easily, you know, whether it be through like the music that you select while watching certain TikToks, like, oh, who else has done something to the audio of this, and seeing people that way. And you could tell that Reels has copied a lot from that. But even still on the discovery page, it's nothing like the For You page. Like it's not even close.
Yeah.
So like for you, like is TikTok still like your main, I guess your main squeeze when it comes to like social? Like this is like what I primarily create for.
I think, sorry, I
You're all good.
think at a point, like when I first started getting a following, and it still
Mm,
is my biggest platform, but my thing with TikTok, well, I do think there's definitely work that needs to be done to get a following. It's still for me the easiest, and it's one of those things where it scares me because of how many times they've threatened to take it off the
mm,
app store, and how now TikTok has become this thing where they have all these guidelines, but they're not very good at, I guess, hitting people with them right. So sometimes you'll get a strike against your account and
mm,
your video will have been totally fine. It's just for some reason they wanted to mess with your account.
mm.
So then you have to appeal the video, and then you have to wait. And you know, they've been, I know for a few creators actually got their accounts taken down just because TikTok was like, no, not appropriate. And they
Right.
just took it away. And that scares me all the time. I'm like, they could rip this away from me at any point just cause.
Right.
And so for me, I'm trying to venture more into other platforms that I think are actually better.
Mm.
As well as far as stability goes. So kind of like channel my TikTok following and continue to grow on there while also more moving into, I want to get back into YouTube. I tried that out before TikTok. It's just, I think a lot more effort goes into YouTube videos and I appreciate that, but it is definitely hard doing it all by yourself.
Yeah, it's a challenge for sure.
I'm sure you
Man.
know better, way better than I know.
Yeah, YouTube is definitely I would consider YouTube as far as internet media would be the old media. It would be like in the equivalent of streaming services versus TV. Like YouTube is like the TV of the internet.
Yes.
So it's like the old media online, even though it's still relatively new. In like the grand scheme of time, it's
Yeah,
relatively new. But
I agree.
so getting established on YouTube definitely takes a little bit more effort because you have to figure out a way to get people to stay on a longer form video, but still have something to where it fits in a certain niche category. Like it's very different. And its searchability, while is good, isn't I think it's not really geared for the times that we're in now with people's attention spans being this short. Right. So like on TikTok, the first like 7 seconds, if you haven't really grabbed somebody, they're flip, next flip, like they'll flip super quick.
Yeah.
So I think on YouTube it's a little bit different to where if they click on a video, they're now watching the video, but then most of the time if they're on the computer, they then have to leave the video to search for something else versus swiping to the next topic, to the next video or whatever. So it is definitely different. But with that being said, like, have you thought about incorporating like or doing something similar to what you do on TikTok with like the shorts on YouTube?
For me, it's easier to do the shorts on TikTok only because they're providing me sounds.
Mm,
So for me, if I'm on YouTube, you can't do anything like that. The copyright will get
correct.
you immediately.
Correct.
So when I did try YouTube, I had a channel with my sister at one point. I got to like
Mm-hmm.
4 videos, but I was
Mm-hmm.
doing most of the work for it. So she
Okay.
would kind of just pop in, be entertainment, and then I would have to set it up, get all the stuff, come up with the idea, edit the video. And sometimes they'd
Mm-hmm.
be like 20-minute videos. And I'm like, well,
Oh,
I don't think anyone's going to watch this.
okay.
But it was fun to make.
Right.
But it has to be a different content. And that's the hardest thing I think that at least I try to do is every single site has to be different
Mm,
because like everything calls for something else. Like on Instagram, I'm not really gonna post my TikToks unless it's like on my story and I'm laughing or I want them to see it.
mm-hmm.
But it's more for me to like post pictures of myself and like
Mm,
portray a different part of me. On
mm.
TikTok, I'm a little more goofy.
Right.
I'm trying to think what else I'm on, but I just started Twitch recently, so there I'm a lot more interactive. I try to like show more of my personality on there, which I don't really get to do on the other sites. So
Right.
everything's so different. With YouTube, I feel like if I'm doing YouTube, I have to think of it like a TV show.
Got
Because
it.
I watch a lot of YouTube. I think YouTube still might be my favorite one.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely a lot more work and I'm
Is
lazy.
it
So
is it like your favorite like in consumption, like something that you like to consume more than create on?
I think so. Only because I
Mm,
like having the longer videos. I like that
right.
it's sort of like mini series on here and I have like the accounts that I use. Yeah, I grew up watching YouTube, so I still watch it. And
Right.
sometimes I prefer it over my actual TV. So it's a lot more fun. And with TikTok, I think this too, where YouTube maybe back in the day used to be like, oh, like you get hate comments, blah, blah, blah. With TikTok, I think it's 1,000 times worse
Mm,
because that I don't think a lot of people think about it, but it's like TikTok to me is like a combination of like Vine and Twitter, I
Mm,
guess. So it brings in this very like toxic community,
mm,
and it's so easy for them to hide behind all these fake accounts, and then
mm.
your video reaches whoever, and it's scary.
Got it.
So while it's fun to post videos on there, there's so much fear that comes with it too on my end. Just because I'm like, oh boy, I don't know who's gonna see this, and that's the risk that I'm taking. But it's worth it in the end. But you definitely have to filter through a lot on TikTok, I
Yeah,
feel.
I started to notice that too. So I guess a little bit of transparency. TikTok hit me up 20 2018 or 2019. No, it was 2018. They had hit me up at the end of that year they're like, "Hey, can you create like gaming content or like comedic gaming content for the platform?" So they had like brought me on for like I think I was like contracted to do 2 videos a week for like 2 or 3 months, right? And I was like, all right. I was like, we'll see what that looks like. So, they paid me to create content in that
That's
space because I guess
awesome.
they were really trying to push content in that space. And at the time, I was doing this gaming contract for Facebook Gaming at the time. I had like this year contract for them to do live streams on Facebook. So in that time, I started to notice what you're talking about is the I didn't really notice that it was like just random people creating, I guess, fake accounts just to troll people online. But it was actually really interesting because I was like, wow, I was like, all right, there's not a lot of flagging for certain words or whatever, and to me that doesn't bother me. Like I'm not bothered by what people say. I haven't been like that since I was really, really, really young. So at a certain point, I'm like, all right, cool, whatever. That doesn't matter. Like, cool, leave a comment. That helps for my search. So that's fine. So that doesn't bother me. But at the same time, I did see people in my comments that were like, what? Like, and they'll be fighting in the comments about, what somebody said or, so I don't know on YouTube, when you create your account, you can actually select keywords that you don't want to show in your chat or you don't
Mm-hmm.
want to show in your comment section. So I can see how for certain people that don't really care for that type of stuff in their comment section, or maybe take more what people say in the comments personally, because I do understand that is a thing as well. That could be super frustrating. Like that could be actually really
Yeah.
disheartening at times for sure.
I just recently found out that TikTok has filters and you
Oh, do
can
they?
filter certain words.
Oh, cool.
Apparently, but you have to put them in for your account. So
Mm.
it's not like they do it as a whole scale thing.
Hmm.
They kind of just, you have to go in, I actually filter all my comments now. So
Oh,
no
wow.
one
Okay.
can have a comment posted on my video without me going yes or
Mm.
no. And I think that sounds weird, but it saves me a lot of, I guess, the disheartening feeling of posting something or
Right.
dealing with the quarantine made people, I think, a lot worse on the internet, especially
Mm.
for fandoms, whether
Right.
it's anime, it's Marvel, it's whatever. There is a whole new group of, I guess, this is what I realized too, is like, I guess back in the day, the trolling it has gotten different.
Mm.
So now people on the internet have a lot of power, especially children. Children
Right.
are very, very mean.
Right.
And they're coming into these fandoms. I think a lot of them grew more during quarantine and they're all
Mm.
home. So you post something that they don't agree with a little bit, and these fan accounts will now come at you and they'll
Right.
attack you. And a lot of my content is fan content for Marvel.
Right.
So I had a run in with that where I actually
Mm.
got a tattoo for one of the characters that I love.
Mm.
And I had my own reasons for getting it and I
Mm.
posted it.
Mm.
And it got a lot of love, but it had like that 1% of hate. But they were really bad hate comments.
Mm.
And I ended up, I didn't have my duets on, so people couldn't technically like be in my video or do anything like that. But they were screenshotting it and then putting videos on it. And then that got to Twitter, which is horrible for fandoms.
Right.
It's just a terrible place. So I had all these people attacking me for the tattoo I got. And after that, I was like, that's it. I'm filtering all these comments because, they spin this narrative that isn't true or isn't on you. And once you have one hate comment, it's kind of just like they all like bandwagon jump on it.
For sure.
Yeah. So with that, that's probably the worst part of TikTok right now. And everyone thinks they know everything and everything's a problem. You have to walk such a careful line on TikTok right now, even on the internet, or else you can have like a scandal or a cancellation just like that. And it's something that you won't even think, like, you'll be like, that's not even what it is. But people will be like, oh no, yes, it is.
Yeah, it's
like,
that's something that I think has been almost a theme of people that I've had on the podcast is the overcorrection of stuff, of like cancel culture just went completely the other direction. But I think too, it comes to the point that you're making is people they don't take context into consideration at all. It's like, oh, context doesn't matter. This is what I saw and that's how I feel about it. So it's wrong. It's like, what? That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of strange that that's, I mean, it's not foreign because I create anime content, so I see it all the time.
Yeah, the fandom.
The funniest thing with the reactions, I think, for me is very similar to what you said, is you have people that I'll disagree with something in an anime or a show that they like. I don't really like this character. I think the biggest one is ReZero. People love ReZero, and I think the show is mid at best. I think the main character is a moron. So for me, I was like, okay, I can't watch the show anymore. Like, I was like, I'm really getting aggravated with the main character. People are like, oh, well, you don't understand because, he's going through this and blah, blah. And, you just like action. It's like, bro, first and foremost, time out, calm down. It's not that serious. But two, I fully understand what the character is going through. I just don't resonate with this character. So I'm not going to watch it. And it just gets to this point of people getting really upset or trying to be like, oh, well, you're an idiot because you don't get this. I'm like, no, I just don't like it. There's a difference between me understanding and me not liking something. So yeah, I can definitely see that being an issue on TikTok even more because people feel more brave on that platform.
Yeah, they do. They got really brave over quarantine.
Yeah, I've seen that quite a bit in people's comments. I'm like, man, people are wild on here.
Yeah. I get nervous talking about it just because, like, when it happened, I was so upset because I was like, oh my gosh, these people think I'm a horrible person. Like, I swear and now I have this tattoo on my, so I'm going to give context just because no one knows what I'm talking about. I'm a giant Marvel fan, completely. I love the Winter Soldier character. I love Bucky Barnes. I love that character for reasons where I feel like I can relate, and people laughed at me for that. But I'm like, there are certain things to a story that I can relate to.
Right.
So I got a tattoo, and this is where it's like, okay, that is a weird tattoo, but I know it is, but it had meaning to me. I got his words on my side. So the words that turn him into the Winter Soldier, I got tattooed. And a lot of people loved it. The video got like 60,000 likes on it. It had like a ton of shares, and there was a lot of comments of people liking it. Then the cancel culture people got to it, and they started calling me like horrible things. And it was like very small amount.
Hold on, time out.
And I tried,
So you get something put on you that because you've resonated with the character, not only did they not ask what the context of what it was about, they take it and say, oh, because she did this, it means she likes what? Like what was the whole spin? What was the spin? I'm very confused about the spin.
Oh, get ready for this one. This is every time I tell people this who are like, I guess older fans or like, I guess not 14-year-olds on the internet. Right. Like, it's not all 14-year-olds. It's a very small amount, but or that very younger than me.
Right.
Way too much power on the internet for them. But they told me that because he was part of Hydra,
Mm-hmm.
and Hydra, they go, Hydra is based on Nazi regimes or something,
Okay.
which, okay. They started telling me that I'm a Nazi apologist. I was like, what? Like, that has 0% reason as
Oh my
to why I
God.
got the tattoo. I was like, that's
Right.
not even true. And
Right.
then they started telling me how I'm making trauma an aesthetic and that I don't know anything about PTSD or anything that he went through. And I'm like, literally, I wrote, like, I put as the caption, I was like, there are reasons why I got this tattoo, but I'd rather not get into it because it's personal. And they
Right.
made fun of me for writing that without knowing any context as to what I went
Right.
through in life and why I relate to it. And,
Right.
I've dealt with very toxic relationships in the past where I was very manipulated, you
Mm-hmm.
know, tortured in a sense. Like there was a lot of things there where I had my own version of my trigger words that turned me into a person that I did not love.
Right.
And so for me, it's like, okay, I related to this character in this sense, there's that dark past, but it's this
Mm-hmm.
tattoo is like one or character I relate to, a fandom I love, and then a story that I can kind of attach myself to as like a literary, I guess, representation for
Right.
me without having to write the things that actually bother me. And I could be like, okay, this was me overcoming and showing that these are just words. They don't really mean anything. Anything that
Right.
people come at me with, I can handle. And then
Right.
immediately I got people hating on me. And I was like, oh man, they're really putting me to the test with this tattoo here. And so they just started reaching. And so I started filtering the comments.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a very small amount. Like when I tell you there were people telling me how much they loved it and that they wanted to get this tattoo. But then
Mm-hmm.
what upset me more is the people that were writing that, they had people attacking them too. And I didn't want that on my
Right.
platform.
Right.
I actually ended up deleting the whole video. I'm like, I don't even care that this has a lot of likes. I'm like, this just isn't worth it. And I don't
Mm-hmm.
want people trying to villainize me because that was
Right.
another thing I dealt with in like my past and like
Mm-hmm.
relationships and whatever. I'm like, I don't want to deal with that. So yeah, they started screenshotting it. They had screenshots already. Some people already saved it. So they started these small fan accounts who don't even post themselves or anything. They just,
Right.
they hate on others. That's how they get their likes. That's how they get their
Right.
following.
Mm-hmm.
They posted it and they were just saying all those horrible things. And then I didn't even know. Someone commented on my post going, wow, the original. And I was like, the original? Like, what do you mean the original? And I go on to Twitter and it just like I guess blew up on someone's page. It only got like 1,000, but that's still a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't think I'm like that big. So for like it to reach like 1,000 or so like retweets or views, I was like, oh no. And they were just saying the most horrible things about me without knowing any reason as to why I got this. And I'm like, I'm
Right.
not. It's not worth it to argue with these people because you can't.
Right.
And I can't make them understand. I did reach out to probably like a couple and I was like, listen, this is why. But they don't have that grasp. They're like, well, girl, it's weird. Or, well, bestie. And like, they use words like that. And
Right.
it's so passive aggressive.
Yeah.
It
I think
really
that's,
disheartened me from like making content on TikTok for like a bit.
and I think that like everything you're saying to me does it. I can't even register the common sense in it just because of the fact that being a creator online is completely different from somebody commenting. And I think people that are in comments that like to troll or like to say, hey, like, I don't agree with X, Y, and Z, don't really understand the fact that what, like, because they're not putting anything on record, they think it's cool for them to just hit anybody without
Yeah.
context. It's like, okay, well, every decision you do, I want you to put online. Anything you like, I don't care if you decide to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich with peach jam, but I want you to do a video on it and see how many people call you a weirdo for you know what I'm saying? Like it's
They'll hate on you for the brand that you use. They'll
yeah,
be like,
like
oh, you used a brand
what?
that's not
Right.
like good for the environment. Like they'll find
Right.
any little thing.
Right. And I think that's the thing where people that don't create content don't understand the other side of that of like, well,
Yeah.
you don't know why this person did it. but you're quick to assume why they did it because you don't like it.
Yeah.
It's really weird to me. I've never grasped that
Weird.
concept. I don't think I've ever wrote a negative comment on a video. I don't think I've ever disliked a video on YouTube.
Yeah.
If I don't like it, I just click to the next video. I just leave. All right, cool, next. Like, I in my head, I'm like, nothing has gotten to me where I'm like, oh, what? Let me tell them what I feel. Like, it's just really strange to me. Like, yo, you got so worked up about something. You don't even know this person, yet you're so quick to tell them why they did something. It's like,
Yeah.
yo, like, did you ask why they did it? Well, it's not a good enough reason. Hold
Yeah.
on, time out. Time out. So they have to validate it with you first to make sure that it's a good enough reason for them to post said thing or to do said. Like, it's really weird where we are right now on social media. It's actually really interesting.
It's scary. It's actually scary because they'll find any little reason, but that too, it's like, they were making fun, at least in my scenario. They were like, oh, what? Did you go through 70 years of brainwashing?
Oh
I was
my
like,
god.
well, no, obviously. And they were like, how do you think he feels? And I'm like, he's not real.
Oh my god, bro.
I was like, I don't know what they want me to do. Like, because they were like acting as if he was a real person. And I was like, you
Right.
have to be like, there's no arguing with that because if you're that far off,
Right.
I cannot explain anything to you. If you think,
Yeah.
what do I do? Turn on Disney Plus and apologize to my TV? Like, I
You
don't
know what's
think
crazy? Like, I think so. For people that aren't understanding what that is, so characters, how characters are written are usually inspired by real life,
Mhm.
right? So, which means that you can resonate with characters when you're watching them. That's the whole point. Is like, oh, I've been through something similar, or you're using this person's experience as an analogy for real life experiences that you've had. Case in point would be one of my friends has one of my friends is autistic, and I had told him this was like, oh, maybe when I was first starting watching Naruto, and he was getting into anime, and I was like, yo, you should watch Naruto. And he was like, why? I was like, well, I mean, you were telling me like growing up things were very you felt isolated, you felt alone in certain situations because you were always looked at as different. Naruto's character, yeah, you don't have a freaking demon inside of you, but Naruto did, but he felt isolated. He felt alone. Even though he
Yeah.
wanted to do stuff, he felt by himself. He ended up started watching the show and fell in love with Naruto's character because he resonated with the experience he was going through as far as being isolated, wanting to have goals or
Yeah.
whatever, but nobody really wanted to be around him. Like, so the idea of the character for him, he resonated with. But it's just really, it's like if he would have got a Naruto tattoo, you know what I'm saying? Like, oh, me and Naruto are the same, or like I resonate with, like, you have people that would get it, and you would probably have people like, oh, what? Like, you don't have a demon inside of you. You don't have a nine-tailed fox in your body. Like, so I feel like it's really weird that people jumped on you because of that. It's actually, I don't mean to laugh at your scenario, but it
No,
sounds
it's fine. Trust me. It
it's
sounds
ridiculous
ridiculous.
though. It's
It
kind of
and I
crazy.
cried. I cried about it because I was like, oh my god, they're gonna like this isn't even true, and they're gonna cancel me over all this stuff that I'm like, this isn't even why I got the tattoo.
Right.
And not only that, they're like, well, why didn't you get a different tattoo for him? I'm like, because I didn't want to. I'm like, because it's my body. They're like, why didn't you
Okay.
get something cuter? And I'm like, because I wanted a quote. I wanted it to look like a quote. And I'm like, and that was an interesting theme to me. Like for me, like tattoos have meaning behind them.
Right.
Just because you want me to get a cute aesthetic tattoo doesn't mean I'm
Right.
going to put it on my body. I'm like, I don't want to get I don't want his metal arm on my rib cage. Like that's not what I want.
Right.
I'm like, this is what I wanted. And yet they were taking screenshots of my body and just posting them all over and like, oh, look at this girl. And then, I laughed at some of them because they were just making fun of the way it looked, which, okay, whatever. Artistic, everyone has that opinion. But like, don't throw these like horrible views on me as a person that just aren't true. and
Right.
don't make it sound like I'm not sensitive to things that I actually have gone through and can relate to. Like,
Right.
that's not fair to anyone. And to preach about not hating on these things, but then go back and like they preach mental health too,
Mm.
but then completely throw that out the window when they don't agree with something, or
Yeah.
they're like, oh, cancel people, or like, this person sucks, this person's disgusting, like they do not care at all. I'm like, you're
Yeah.
bullying online. Like, you know that, right?
Yeah. I think that was the biggest thing that I started to see over quarantine was people were in a really, some were going through a lot emotionally, financially, whatever. So I think people were taking out how they were feeling about shit, about themselves or their life experience, and they were just looking for a place to dump their emotions on people. Because I saw a lot of my friends that create content just getting crazy comments and stuff, and they're like, "Yo," "Look," I have a lot of my stuff filtered for certain words in my comments, but
Mm-hmm.
since I created content on YouTube, I've had, I think, on average a day, if I were to go into my dashboard for YouTube, I probably have a good like 10 to 12 racist comments a day. Just on, oh, this nigger over here, like, I'm dead
Oh,
ass. And you're just like, okay, like, okay. It's just weird to me. It's like, it took you, one, you clicked on the video to watch it, to then take the time out of your day to write this. And it's interesting to me. I'm like, man, like, are you good? Like, are you good, bro? Like, is everything okay? Like, that to me is so interesting. I just never understood the concept of doing it. So, uh, yeah. I mean, do you like your tattoo?
I love it. And it sucked that I, like, a bunch of people made me feel bad for it, is kind of how I looked at it. Because then
Right.
I was so excited to get it. I got a lot of love on it. And then all of a sudden, all these people started calling me all these horrible things and accusing me of being like a Nazi. And I'm like, I'm not a, that's not true. I'm like, please stop
That's
saying
so
that.
that's so ridiculous. I can't even.
Yeah.
So like, okay, so let's talk about this real quick because, um, personally, in the MCU,
Mm-hmm.
uh, I really wasn't a fan of Bucky's character personally, and him or Falcon. To be honest, I thought they were really boring to me.
Did you not like Falcon the Winter Soldier?
But so when the show got announced, I was like, all right. Now keep in mind, I think objectively, as far as movies go, story, uh, acting, fight sequences, all that, The Winter Soldier is arguably the best, if not top two, best written, best like objective movies in the MCU.
Yeah.
Um, so, but I was like, I don't know if I want to watch a TV show on Bucky and Sam. Like, I don't know if I want to watch that. And I end up loving the show. First of all,
Yeah.
I fell in love with Bucky's character. I was like, okay, Bucky is dope. But then on the other side of it, it wasn't even just Sam. It was uh, the actor. I've never really cared for Anthony Mackie in movies ever. Uh, and I'm not even sure if you even know this movie reference. Have you seen 8 Mile?
Yes.
Okay,
A
so
lot, a
he's
lot. Yeah.
okay. So he's Papa Doc in 8 Mile. So
Yeah.
so anytime I see him, like, yo, it's Clarence, bro. Like, get out here. Like, so I just don't. I've never liked him in movies. I just always thought he was corny, and like I always feel like the movies that they put him in, whether it be that TV series Altered Carbon, like season 2 of Altered Carbon, I was just like they want to make him like this saucy, like super badass character, and I'm just like, I just don't feel like that fits your personality as a person, and it seems like he's trying too hard.
Yeah.
So I never really cared for him. End up really liking him in the show. Really liking the show. So for you being obviously a huge Winter Soldier fan, what was your thoughts on Falcon Winter Soldier? Like, how did you like the show?
So a lot of people ask me, they're like, oh, so out of all the three, which one's your favorite? And when I say
Mm,
Falcon and the Winter Soldier, they think they're like, how? Because
mm,
they don't think it's right that Marvel put it in between two magical shows.
mm.
So they're like, it just wasn't as exciting. And I'm like, but it was. I was
Hmm.
like, for me, I really just loved it because it got into so many different like arguments
Mm-hmm.
and it portrayed it so well
Mm-hmm.
and some problems that I think that the MCU needed to handle. One being, I think they don't always go into character depth.
Mm-hmm.
Like they just recently started doing that more so now. Like in the
Right.
beginning, it was like, okay, it's there. But
Mm-hmm.
with this, like showing them going to therapy, showing them like the backstory of the characters, especially
Mm-hmm.
like Isaiah Bradley's storyline, like
Right.
going into all those different aspects, I think
Mm-hmm.
it was portrayed so well.
Right.
And even the transition of like showing Sam finally accepting that he should be Captain America,
Right.
like I think that was also just beautifully done. And
Yeah.
I don't know why people don't like appreciate that part of it more. Cause yes, I loved like WandaVision. I loved
Mm-hmm.
Loki, obviously. But for me, it was just more like, I guess too relatable. Cause it's like
Mm.
real life. Like
Right.
again, they're superheroes, but like it was more grounded.
Yeah.
And I just love that they went into more of the, I guess, psychological aspect too. I'm very into that stuff. And
Right.
especially with the character that I was like, I felt this relation to, I was like, seeing that helped me a lot too.
Mm.
And that was interesting.
Yeah. That show to me is so out of the three, I ranked WandaVision a 9. I ranked Falcon and Soldier an 8, and I ranked Loki a 7. And I don't rank them,
Yeah.
by the way, just so you have a context. I don't rank
No,
them
that's fine.
based off like grades in school. I'm going off of like actual like averages. So a 5 to
Mm-hmm.
me would be average because it's 50-50. I liked some of it and I didn't like some of it. So a 7 to me is good.
Yeah.
Um, and Falcon and Winter Soldier, I thought by far had the best action sequences, period, out of all of them.
Yes.
I like how they started to touch on the aftermath of the blip. Of
Mm-hmm.
okay, well, you have people that died, and people that were still alive decided to move into buy properties of people that had passed away. I moved into this person's house. They're not here anymore. This is now my house. I've been living here for 3 years. Now these people come back and they're like, "Why are you in my house?" Like, this is my house. Like, that's a real thing that would take place. So you have these people that were
Exactly.
like, they felt like, well, where do I belong? Like, I either like now I'm back here, but I don't have a home. I don't have, my husband is no longer my husband. He moved on because I supposedly died, but I'm back. Like, these are issues that are going to happen if that were to happen in real life. So I love the fact that they touched on the complexity of what that would be like. And then obviously to your point, the whole Sam situation of not wanting to be it. Then also showing the differences in the black community of this
Yeah.
older gentleman that had went through this is like, look, like no black man needs to be Captain America. No. But also saying like, look, like I respect what you're saying, but I think I need to do this. And I think that in and of itself is kind of showcasing like, okay, like we don't all think the same in certain aspects of things, but sometimes I have to push against a social norm. Sometimes I have to
Yeah.
push against certain things. So I love the complexity in that. I thought that was really dope. Yeah, I agree with you. I think Falcon and Winter Soldier was actually an excellent show. Surprisingly, because like I said, I was not a fan of either one of them. To your point of they felt very monotone in the MCU.
Yes. And I agree with
Okay,
that 100% too.
yeah. So I was like, and same thing with Wanda and Vision. I was like, WandaVision. I actually didn't start watching WandaVision until episode 4.
I was like, yeah, I'm like, I don't know if I really, if Vision is going to be very entertaining.
Right. So I was like, me and my guys, we do a podcast on Twitch called the Cyber Hype, and
Mhm.
both of them were like, "Yo, you gotta watch WandaVision." But I was like, "Bro, I'm cool." And then after episode 3 happened in the end section of that, and people were going nuts. They were like,
Yeah.
"Dude, you have to watch the show." I'm like, "Fine." So I sat down and watched obviously all 3 at the same time, and I was like, "Jesus Christ, this show is genius." And I end up loving both of the characters. I think the show artistically is brilliant.
Yes.
Um, I think it's brilliantly done. So yeah, I definitely was surprised that I was going to love the two characters that honestly were not characters again that I cared about in the MCU like that. Um, how did you think? How did you feel about Loki? What was your thoughts on Loki?
Oh man, I think I liked it. I don't think every episode was like there was definitely one episode that was just like not very like
Episode 3.
exciting. But the thing
Yeah.
with Loki is, and the thing that like I don't really even focus on the things that were so bad because I'm like, in actuality, these shows are so much bigger than what they're even doing. Like they're basically these three shows just set up the rest of the MCU.
Mm-hmm.
So with Loki, it was kind of like that final like nail in the coffin where like, all right, here's your villain. Like this is the next Thanos level villain. And for me, that is where I got so excited because I was like,
Mm-hmm.
who is it? Please tell me. And then they finally said it, and I was like, oh my god! Like the hype that I get from watching Marvel is definitely a bit extra, but I loved it. I thought Loki was amazing just because for the fact that it set up everything, and it also gave this like interesting perspective on, I guess, life and
Mm.
if we're fated for these certain things. Like what if there is someone out there with all these like just
Mm.
writing our lives out for us? Like I thought that was an interesting, like they'd had that one scene and it really made me stay up late that night like thinking about my existence. I was like, huh. Or if there are multiverse versions of myself, which I like to believe because that'd be pretty fun. So
Right.
little things like that where it's like it makes you think, and that's what I like.
Yeah, that show was pretty cool. I think it was episode 4 that was like a waste of time,
Yeah.
or it was 3. No, it was
I
3
think
because
three. Yeah, I think they were just like walking on the. I
on
think it
that
was
planet they were.
Atlantis or something. It was the
Yeah,
planet, and they were just
Lamentus.
like, oh,
Yeah,
Lamentus. That's what it was. I was like,
yeah, yeah. That episode was very. The only thing we got in that episode, story wise, that was needed was that all of them were variants. We're like, oh, they're all variants. I was like,
yeah,
y'all could have put that in somewhere else. Like, I think that was the thing for me of the show that I think brought the points down for me was I felt like you already had 6 episodes, so it was gonna be a short season. Yet I felt like there was too much wasted time on stuff that
yeah,
could have been more exciting or just faster paced. Um, but yeah, it. I still think it's a good series. I think the fight sequences were terrible. Uh,
yeah. I agree. They wasted that one song. Well, the second episode they did the Need a Hero one, and it just
yeah,
did not work. I was like, oh,
it was. The fight sequences are really bad. I heard that they actually have a new stunt choreographer or fight choreographer for the second season,
thank
which is
gosh.
good because that I was like, man, whoever did this was not it. It just wasn't. It just didn't deliver, especially coming out right after Falcon and Winter Soldier. It was like, oof, okay. But
Yeah,
even WandaVision, the fight sequences in that obviously there weren't a lot, but when they actually happened were solid. So
yeah.
I was very I was like, damn it, guys. But yeah, I'm interested to see how this plays out and how it ties into the other shows. What my assumption is, and I want to get your perspective on this, is that the What If show that's coming out
Oh, I'm excited for that.
is based because of what happened in this show. I think the what ifs are like multiverses options of like what happened if this, you know what I'm saying? I think that's
Yeah.
probably because of the multiverse that just kind of went ridiculous. Um, how do you feel about that theory? And then are you excited about what if?
I'm definitely excited for it for sure because I just love everything Marvel does.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, to my demise, but I agree with you honestly only because like with the multiverse theory, it's like there's a world with everything.
Mm-hmm.
So there probably is a world where like Peggy Carter was Captain America. Like there
Mm-hmm.
are those. Or if I think that I saw something because I was looking at the artwork for it,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm curious if they're gonna get into it. But they showed some of I forgot, but it was some of the characters as zombies, and I
Mm-hmm.
remember that comic or something, and I'm very excited for that because
Mm-hmm.
that was interesting. I was like, how are they gonna play this out? Because I'm like, I don't know. I've always wondered what if, and like they could have gone with any different like storylines from any of the comics, but this
Mm-hmm.
is the one they're going with, and it's not even like accurate completely most of the time. Like they kind of like pull what they want.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I'm so excited
Yeah,
just to know.
I think the other thing too that would be really cool is if they utilize the What If series to show different runs of certain comic book moments.
Mhm.
And the reason why I say that is it'd be really cool to see, and this is just my fan thing going. I'm not sure what comic book run it's from, but Thor ends up fighting Black Panther,
That's an interesting
and
one.
yes, and he throws Mjolnir at him, and Mjolnir moves out of the way, like it goes around him because one of the previous Black Panthers wielded Mjolnir.
I
So
believe it, honestly. That
so
makes
so
sense.
so because the Black Panther is like it's when you get that ability, you get all the
Yeah.
previous lives knowledge and whatever. So Milner
Mhm.
was like, nah, like that's the homie. Like it just went around him. And I was like, that'd be so cool to see in like an animated sense, would be really, really dope. But I think it'd be cool if they took some of the, special or like one-off comic book runs and did like what ifs of those would be pretty cool.
Yeah, I think so too. And I love being on at least the MCU part of TikTok because I get all the theory videos on my page.
Mm,
So those are always fun. And I had one video pop up and it was of this guy and he was just ranting about Captain Marvel.
mm,
It was so funny because I'm not the biggest Captain Marvel fan.
mm,
Only because the MCU mishandled her. I don't
mm.
care. And I don't care for her storyline. Like I'm like, there's just a lot about the character I don't like.
Okay, fair enough.
But on the internet, if you have that opinion, you're internalized misogynist. So I
Oh,
don't
really?
owe it.
Okay.
Oh yeah, yeah. Or you're a
Jesus
woman
Christ.
hater, and I'm like, that's not it. Okay.
Oh
But
God.
yeah, but I'm not the biggest fan of her. But he went more into talking about how she was portrayed in the comics too. He's like, it's not even the MCU that I don't like her. I don't even like her in the comics. And he talked about all this other stuff she did. And I was laughing so hard because
Mm-hmm.
there's just I didn't even know some of it. And it's always fun because like I don't have the comics, I don't read the comics, I don't have access to the comics. So when people like bring this to like and like tell me things from them, like it's always exciting for me because I'm like, oh,
Right.
really? I'm like, that's fun.
Right.
So he goes on about the storyline where like there's this, I guess this part. I don't know. You can let me know if you know about this, but where she actually blames Miles Morales for killing someone.
Mm.
I don't know if it's Captain America. It might be, or Iron Man. It's one of the two, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And she kills them because or like she goes to like hurt Miles Morales because she just blames him and it wasn't even his fault. Like she doesn't even try to understand. She's just
Mm-hmm.
like, no, we have to take care of him. He's a problem. And he's like crying and he's like devastated because he's like, how? Like I don't understand what happened. Like she had no context for what happened. She's just like, we need to take care of him. And she does that in a few instances, I guess, where she just like, no, it's my way or the highway. And I hate that.
Right.
I don't like that as a character.
Right.
And
And I
that's
think, yeah. I mean. So to me, this is because like you see how she's even in the MCU, she's very matter of fact.
yeah.
So and I think that's probably going to be her story arc though, is getting from matter of fact and we need to do it this way to working as a team to relying on other people to not always being right about something. Um, so even when she came back in Endgame and had her really badass moment in which was really dope, but it was very like uh she was on her own this whole time or whatever, comes back, I'm here now, I got this, which was dope, but but it has that arrogance level of like, look, I'm here, we're good. Thanos does the headbutt thing, doesn't work, and then fucking power stones her ass out the movie. Like she literally is no longer in the movie until the funeral. So so I think there's definitely that. I think her movie was just a placeholder, like a filler, not a
Yeah.
filler, but more of context. So when she's in Endgame, it made sense. but I don't think that is really where her story is going to start to flourish. I think it was just like, look, we need to get her in here because she's going to be an Endgame, and we need her for the next phase. But because her movie felt very like,
Yeah. My thing is, I think they mishandled her. I don't even blame
mm,
her or anything. Like, I don't blame, obviously, the actress has nothing to do with the character, but like, a lot of people were trying to like make that argument too. But
yeah,
my thing with them is like, I think they forced her and like, they kind of just like pushed it into the storyline.
mm,
And it felt very like, it didn't feel cohesive with everything that was going on. And then
mm,
even in Endgame, as cool as like her scene was, again, I was like, really? I was like, did they really need her here? Like, where has she been this entire time? Like,
mm,
and I felt like, and there was the other argument too. They're like, well, they did nerf some of the characters in Endgame. Like, Hulk was not Hulk. Hulk was Bruce Banner. Hulk, watered down Hulk. So I don't think he was even up to speed. They had Thor, who was definitely having like a psychological break and
mm,
very upset. So he, I don't even think was at his maximum potential. I
right,
was like, if they were, and they had the other people too, I'm like, did they really, really need her? Could they have
mm,
played, what if they played those scenes out differently?
right,
And I think her character does have room for growth, and I'm hoping they redeem her is what I'm hoping for.
mm,
But um I don't know. I just
right.
hope they do, because they have the argument too when it comes to like, oh well, if she's arrogant, what do you think about Tony Stark? Is he not arrogant? Or like, oh, are you telling me like this other character isn't arrogant? I'm like, I'm not saying that, but like she comes off very, not like, it's not tasteful, it's not like fun, it's like very just like it's hard to watch.
Mm,
Cringy, I guess, is like a good word for me. So I'm like, I'm
okay.
hoping they just like do more with her, because she's a good character, like at least in that sense where she's powerful. So I'm
Mm,
like, just redeem her a bit. And I know they're gonna be going into that with like the Monica Rambeau storyline,
right.
so I'm interested with that.
Well, see, and this is my thing is I think that there's so because I remember she came back and even uh, War Machine was like, "Where you been? Like, where you been all this time?" And she was like, "Look,
Yeah.
like, there's other worlds that didn't have you guys. Like, this universe is really big." So, I like the fact that that's a thing. So
Yeah.
they kind of touch on like, look, there's other stuff going on. You obviously have the tie into the end of that of the movie of Captain Marvel where Nick Fury gives her the whole beeper situation. Like, look, she was like, or she gives him that was like, look, if you need me, emergency situation, hit me and it'll reach me. So I like how those things were there to give at least some context
Yeah.
of why she wasn't there. But I
Mm-hmm.
think the biggest thing though was in WandaVision when they were
Yes.
talking about Wanda being powerful, blah blah, and she's like, yo, like she's really powerful, and she would like if Thanos didn't do X, Y, and Z, she would have beat Thanos, and then
Yeah.
what's her name was like, well, Captain Marvel would have beat him too, and then Monica had like this really disdain, like we're not talking about her right now, like so you could there's definitely some uh, unsettled issues there
Yeah.
with her, and I think personally it probably has something to do with when Monica's mom died
Yes.
and she wasn't there. She was like,
Yeah.
bro, like your best friend was dying and you didn't even show up. Uh, I think that probably had something to do with it.
See, she's not a good
Uh,
person. This is why I like.
so, but these are the things though where it's like, did she know she was dying? Like, there's all these
Yeah.
things of like, of we only see a perspective of her not being there. So the picture right now is painted as she doesn't care, she's on her own, whatever.
Yep.
But if she didn't know that her friend was dying, if she didn't know these things were happening on Earth, does that justify her not being there? And I think those are the questions that I hope that
Yeah.
the Marvels movie that's coming out explains. The Miss Marvel TV show maybe goes
Mm.
into. So hopefully we get some more answers with her in that. And I hope that to your point, the progression of her story becomes more something that people can digest
Yeah.
a bit easier because she is super rough around the edges. She's
Yeah.
not very likable, but I think we need that in Marvel at the moment. because everybody in this, almost everybody on the shows and the movies are likable, and it's like cool. Like, can we add a little spice in here, just a little bit of like not likable? Because that's what Bucky was. Bucky was the not likable character. Like what's going on with him, Cat? Why you keep going
Yeah.
after this dude? Like, he supposedly killed this person. He's a murderer for X amount of years or whatever. And he's trying to let people know, like, no, bro, like, this dude's been programmed, blah, blah. Then you find out that he killed Tony's parents. You're like, what? So there's like, so you're trying to understand the side of him being controlled. But then you're looking at Tony like, yo, bro, he killed your parents, my guy. Like, so there's a part of you that's like, man, fuck Bucky. Like, there's a part of that in you, right? You're just like, nah, like, so I like the fact that it's not just a cut and dry, I like her. I think making the audience earn that with her would make, I think, if they do it correctly, and I trust Marvel in this. They've
Yeah.
had 10 plus years of doing storytelling in this universe that I'm like, y'all know what y'all doing. I'm not gonna act like y'all don't. But I think they're gonna allow that time for people to start to build that likability with her. But I want it to be earned. I don't want it to be like the next movie. She's like a different character. Like,
Yeah.
let's get her to that point of like, I'm starting to like her now. Like, I'm starting to like this character more. I hope that's something that they do better with her for sure.
Yeah, I'm hoping, and that's why I always try to look at the bigger picture with Marvel, because it's always bigger picture. It's never like, so it's okay to like dislike things at the time, but then later be like, okay, I get it. Like, that makes a lot of sense.
For sure.
So I'm hoping they also do that with Captain America's ending. I hope. But there was just definitely a few things I just don't like. So with her, it's definitely her like attitude and her character. And yeah. And there's a theory that she cut her hair in honor of Monica's mom, but I don't know if that's even, because then it means that she knew and she still didn't. Like, so I'm like, okay, hopefully they just don't mishandle this. Because I think another reason is I'm not a fan of, like, I guess, characters with too much power.
Right.
So, or like at least not without faults. So like I don't like, I guess I call it like Superman complex. Where it's like, oh great, they're here. Okay, they're gonna save the day. Like, this is it. There's not gonna be a struggle. They're just gonna come in and like do it. I don't like that. So I'm hoping they kind of just make her, I guess, a bit more relatable is kind of what I'm looking for. Not too overpowered. Like, Wanda's very powerful, but she has this like relatability and her like vulnerability.
Right.
Is what I like. But yeah, I'm just hoping they fix up things that were just like
No, that's fair. I mean, I think even that storyline though would still make sense if that's why she cut her hair, because she if she was away, she got the beep after the blip happened, after Thanos snapped, right? So that was like right when that was happening. Nick Fury hit that. When she rescued Tony, she still had her hair. So if she came back to the Avengers Tower and saw everybody that had been erased by Thanos, maybe looked into the fact, what was going on with the mom, and found out that, she was still, maybe she was sick then and it was still in the hospital. Because Monica literally, she disappeared.
yeah.
Right? She got snapped. So the mom died after Monica Rambeau disappeared. So we don't know if she went to go see her in that time frame after she came and rescued Tony and brought her and went to go kill Thanos. We don't know where she went after that. We just know that in the 5-year gap when she was talking to Black Widow, that her hair was cut. So you're like, oh, what the fuck? Why is your hair like? So there is time there that so I think it still chronologically would make sense if she did decide to cut her hair because of that. But I agree. I'm crossing my fingers with her. I think the biggest question now is who is going to be the big bad of the next saga, because the interesting thing is you have Kang at the end of Loki
Yeah.
in the TVA. And we'll get into that in a second. But and I haven't really looked into a lot of theories on it because I try not to. Fun fact: I don't actually watch a lot of anime or comic content, even though I create content like that. And the only reason why I think primarily is I kind of want my thoughts to be my own thoughts.
Yeah, I like that
Uh,
too.
so I'm like, maybe. So if people like, and then I can have discussions with people and we can theorize about it. Like, oh, what about this? So
Hmm.
my theory is I think the TVA is actually in the quantum realm.
There is a whole thing on that.
Okay, so the only reason why I think that, there's a couple reasons why I think this. So the very beginning of Loki, um, Mobius talks to Loki about time. And he was
Yeah.
like, time happens here very differently. And that's exactly what Ant-Man had said when he came out of the quantum realm
Hmm.
in Endgame. He was like, look, he's like, it's been 5 hours for me, and it's been 5 years for y'all. So that was the first thing. So if you take into consideration that, it would be about 8,000 years for one regular year of human time in the quantum realm would basically be about a year in the quantum realm would be 8,000 years in the real world, which would then line up with the whole thing with Mobius and Renslayer at the end. She was like, we spent eons together,
Yeah.
right? So if 1 year in the real world is 8,000 years in the quantum realm, that would make sense with the time. Two, the only thing we've seen with time travel in the MCU has been through the quantum realm. That's the only time travel we've seen up to Loki. So them
Hmm.
going in and out of time with the whole little slate thing that they're using, I was like, okay, but the only time travel we've seen in the MCU was in Endgame, and they used the quantum realm to do it. So I was like, I wonder if the TVA is in the quantum realm. So that's the first thing that I was thinking about when I saw it. But with Kang being the villain of Quantumania, which is the next Ant-Man movie,
Yes.
I was like, okay, what if this shit's actually in the quantum realm? So I want to know your thoughts on this. Like, do you think Kang is the next big bad of Marvel, or do you think he's just the next villain of a Marvel? Like, I want to know your thoughts about this whole thing.
So before I was trying to figure out who the big bad was when WandaVision came out. I was
Okay,
like,
fair enough.
so I was on that whole boat where I was like, it has to be Mephisto.
Okay,
So I was on that whole train at that point. But
okay.
then I after that I was like, oh, it's just Agatha. Then Falcon and Winter Soldier, I watched it and I was like, okay, I'm not even gonna think about who the big bad is here.
Right.
And then watching Loki, I was very intrigued on how they were gonna set this one all up. So I did see the whole thing. I saw this theory about that being in the quantum realm, and I was like,
Okay.
that makes complete sense. I was like, it makes a lot of sense. I actually love that. I hope that's true because that
Mm,
would tie in so much. I think it would just be cool to have that like verified,
right.
and it would make sense because Kang's supposed to be in the Ant-Man movie.
Right.
So to me, it's like that has to be it. I'm like that has to be the thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he is going to be the big bad. It's either that or I know there was theories about Galactus too,
Mm,
but I like this idea of Kang because
mm,
Loki's right. He's like, he's terrifying. He knows everything.
mm.
And that really hit hard with me because I was like, that is terrifying. I
Right.
was like he had to play out and the whole Loki show, it made everything that happened leading up to Endgame seem meaningless in a way,
Mm,
like, or they just toyed with these people's lives, and that's pretty much what it felt like too.
mm.
But also it had this like, again, everything's so big picture with Marvel, it's so like all over the place. But it kind of like, okay, did he need, like, there was this whole thing about, okay, did he need Tony Stark to die then? Like, why is that the only option that Strange saw? Is another thing. Like, was he playing with Strange when Strange was going through all these 14 million possibilities and that was the only one that would have been like a win?
Mm-hmm.
So there's that whole theory too, where it's like, okay, maybe he also needed Tony Stark to die, or that version of him. So
Mm.
if, I don't know. There's this whole thing. I'm like, there's so many things to think about, but I think he's gonna be the big villain for like upcoming because I just don't see Ant-Man taking this guy out.
Yeah. I, true. I mean, but the thing is, well, with Kang though, like I think in the comics, and I'm not a huge Kang connoisseur of his storylines, but from what
Yeah.
I've gathered, like he's not really a super powerful character.
No.
So but he's really intelligent. Um, so you have that aspect as well. And in Ant Man's movie line, you have a lot of really smart people. Hank
Hmm.
Pym being one of those really smart people. So it just really depends on how they decide to go, how they play that mental chess with Kang. Um, could a different variant of that person be a big bad? Possibly. Um, it's just really difficult when you're dealing with time to like
Yeah.
figure out like what's gonna be what. So I definitely agree with you. Would it be really dope if Galactus was a big bad? Sure, I think it'd be dope. I think at the same time, mm, like to your point before when you're talking about like Hulk and
Yeah.
Thor and some of these characters being super nerfed just from jump. Because I remember the first Avengers movie, people were like, they're like, first of all, Thor would smack Loki. Hulk would smack Loki. Like they're like, no, there's no way. And it's I think people have to maybe step out of the comic book mind for a second and say, okay, look, this is taking place in the quote unquote real world,
Yeah.
right? So having a character that can bench press a mountain casually doesn't can't you like humans can't resonate, can't really understand what that would look like. So then it's like, well, how powerful do these characters have to be? And then if that's the case, then how do these other street level characters even help a character fighting a villain that's even more powerful than them in this movie? Like, it's really hard to scale at that point and be realistic. It's like, well, okay. So I think they try to slowly add strength feats in, like Thor's um, sun feat, when he takes the star head on. That was dope, right?
Yeah.
It's like, oh shit, this motherfucker's strong as shit. Like
I love that scene.
that scene is awesome, right? So, but it's showing moments of ridiculousness without it being on Earth. Because
Yeah.
now it's like if it's on Earth and something like that happened, the Earth would be destroyed
Yeah.
if a sun was just beaming on. You know what I'm saying? Like, so it's like they take these crazy feats off planet. So with Galactus, it's like, all right, well, if there's a Galactus level threat, how does that look like what does it look like from the Earth? Like, if you're on the Earth and you're looking up at Galactus, like, you're like, well, how the fuck do we stop that? Like, so I think it's the scale that's really difficult with
Yeah.
Galactus for a regular non comic book reader to grasp Galactus. You know what I mean? Like, do they just make him a smaller human sized person, but maybe just takes energy from a planet versus like, like how do I don't know how they'll do that if that is the case, but it's like the same thing with like Unicron and the Transformers. It's like, how do you make this a real thing for people that aren't comic book nerds?
That's the thing too, is like I think the people who are heavy into the comics, which I
Mm-hmm.
love hearing about the comics, don't get me wrong, but I'm like, you have to understand like the movie verse is different. It's
Mm-hmm.
it's not accurate. It's not completely accurate to the comics. It's never going to be completely accurate to the comics.
Right.
I'm like, and that's I think what makes the MCU different than like MCU comics
Right.
and everything else. So I'm like, it's this whole different entity. So I'm like, okay, I'm an MCU fan. I'm not really, I can't say I speak on all the comic stuff,
Mm-hmm.
but I, I'm just interested with how they're gonna, because to me, Kang seems at least he's so powerful, but he's not like I guess overpowered
Mm-hmm.
in a sense because it's not like he has like this like the blasting powers or anything like that. It's just
Right.
he's extremely intellectual and I
Mm-hmm.
love that.
Right.
That is like probably one of my favorite type of villain where they're just extremely smart and it's this gameplay. So
Mm-hmm.
with Thanos, don't get me wrong, I was hyped off Thanos, but like it was a different type of hype, I
Mm-hmm.
guess. With this one,
Right.
it's like, oh, this one's gonna be interesting. And not only that, it's not even just like one Kang. Now they're dealing with like how many Kangs out there. So it's like even if they defeat one, is another one just gonna pop up? Like
Right.
how do you take control of the whole multiverse then? And do you take control of the whole multiverse then? Because that was the whole question at the end of Loki. Like he
Mm-hmm.
could have took like they both him and Sylvie could have like taken it over, and then Sylvie was like no,
Right.
but Loki was like wait, think about it, like this might not be good. And so I'm interested if like how do you defeat this villain?
Right.
Do you take, because you can't just take him out, you have to take every version of him out. So
Mm-hmm.
how would they all go about that? And this whole multiverse thing is, I'm so excited for it, and I hope they do all the Spider-Mans. I want to see them. I want to see every type of everything. I'm like, bring me in as one of them, please.
Yeah, that'd be dope. The Spider-Man stuff I know is really a big question right now too. Obviously, from
Yeah.
with the No Way Home movie coming out, and people are like, we still haven't seen a trailer, and it's like, guys, just calm down.
Yeah,
But
chill, chill.
calm down, it's okay. Um, but yeah, I think the MCU has it's an anomaly in film. Like it's like it's super different. I think to your point as well, and I've said this from early on to comic book weebs out there is think of the MCU as its own comic book run. It's telling a different story of these characters in the same way you have different comic book runs of Iron Man, of Batman, of Superman, where there's
Yes.
just a different run of the comic. So even though some of the characters are in there that you're used to, their stories are different, their background's different, how they tie into is different. So it's just a different type of comic book run for me when I look at the MCU. Um, but so I have a question. Are you a Star Wars fan?
I am. Um, I'm as much as I can be at least. I like
Okay.
get nervous when I say I'm a fan of something because I never know how many questions I'm gonna have to
No,
answer.
no, 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 no. You're fine. The reason I was asking is, have you seen the trailer for Star Wars Visions? And if you have, are you excited about it?
I've not seen the trailer yet. You know, I
Okay.
still need to watch the Clone. Okay, so I know Bad Batch just came out.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I have to watch the Clone Wars like animated series before I watch that.
Okay.
So I'm nervous. I know they're coming out with the Obi-Wan one,
Yes.
and I'm excited for that
Right.
a lot. But the
Well,
Visions, I actually didn't know about that one.
so Star Wars Visions is probably the most exciting. It's probably the most anticipated for me out of any piece of medium out there right now. And it's
Hmm.
not because I'm a huge Star Wars fan. Like I think as far as Star Wars fan, I think I'm a little over casual. Like
Yeah.
I'm not casual fan where I just watch the movies. But I'm a little above casual, but I'm not like the Star Wars guy, right? Like I'm not the lore guy. I don't know all the stuff. Like I'm just now watching Clone Wars. I'm watching Bad Batch at the moment as well.
Mhm.
I've seen Mando, all the
Mandalorian was
movies.
great. I
Yeah.
love that one. That was
But
good.
Star Wars Visions, Disney contacted Japanese animation studios
Oh,
and are doing an anthology series and doing Star Wars in Japanese animation. Yeah. So it looks
that
like
sounds
anime.
awesome.
So it looks
I
like
love that.
anime, but it's Star Wars, and the trailer is fucking awesome. Like it's like a featurette, so it's like them explaining what the anthology series is, and the studios that they reached out to do each individual episode and the stories they're trying to tell. So there isn't like an actual trailer of like action sequences, but more of like concept art and all. It's fucking dope. So I'm
I love
super
that.
excited about that because I was like, man, what anime Star Wars? Yes. Um, so yeah, I didn't know if you were or not, or if you've seen it or not. If you haven't though, you should check that shit out because that shit looks crazy.
Well, now I have to. Honestly, I like when I started like I guess watching anime was more recent than a lot of other people. So like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I
It's all
guess
good.
like 2, 3 years ago, I guess two,
Okay.
3 years ago. But I got addicted very quickly.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my gosh, this is probably the best piece of like there was a time where I was like, I'm not even gonna watch anything else but anime.
Anime
I
is
was
it.
like,
So what?
yeah.
So what have you watched in anime? Like, what are things you've consumed so far?
So my first one was Dragon Ball Z, which was an
Got you.
interesting one, I think, to start with.
Okay.
So I started with that one. Then I watched
Mm-hmm.
Super.
Mm-hmm.
I watched, I believe, My Hero Acad no Naruto, but I didn't finish Naruto yet because there's so many
Okay.
episodes, and I have to like take breaks every so often from
Okay.
that one.
Okay.
But that one, My Hero Academia or
Mm-hmm.
Academia. I just watched Demon Slayer recently. That I
Amazing.
really like Demon Slayer.
Mm-hmm.
And let's see,
Okay.
Attack on Titan, and
The
then
goat. Okay.
The Promised Neverland,
Mm.
which
Which season?
I watched a few episodes in the okay, so unpopular little thing I do is I need to watch it in dub.
That's fine. That's fine.
But yeah, I have to watch it only because I like to focus on like what's going on and I can't read and watch something at the same
That's
time. My
fair.
brain. Yeah. So my brain just so I have to wait for the dub to always come out.
Mm-hmm.
So Promise Neverland, I'm like probably like 2 episodes or 3 episodes into season 2.
Okay.
But season 1 was so good.
Season
Um,
one was one of my favorite, if not my favorite, first season of an anime.
yeah.
It's fucking brilliant.
I think I watched it in a day. Like I was like,
Yeah.
I love this. And then season 2, like it started, and I'm like, we'll see, because I didn't finish it yet. So,
Okay.
I'm just
I won't
hoping it
say
hits
anything.
as hard.
I won't
I'm
say
just,
anything. I'll let you. I'll let you consider. We'll talk about it at a later time. Well, you let me know when you finish, and then we can talk about it. Um.
I'm hoping
Okay.
it's like as good as the
So.
first season.
Okay. So you kind of. All right. So you started with Dragon Ball Z, and watched
Yeah.
Super. Did you watch Dragon Ball?
No, I did not, and I've
You.
been debating whether I should go back and watch it
So
for a while.
my here's my personal opinion. I think the good writing of Dragon Ball series is in Dragon Ball. I think outside of that, going like once Frieza, did you watch all of Z?
Yes.
Okay, once Frieza gets beat by Goku, personally, I think the good writing stops. I think after that,
Yeah.
it's cool. It's fun. There's some okey doke moments and some cool fight sequences, and Cell's an interesting character, but I don't think he's a good villain.
Actually, that's my favorite one. I have to say that is my favorite one.
Cell's your
I do
favorite?
like it. Well, because I loved watching Gohan go against him. That's probably my
Yeah.
favorite scene. Like I have a sweatshirt with that scene on it just because I love it.
Oh yeah, I mean the fight sequences and the stuff that happened in there, I really liked.
Yeah.
I just think the character motivation for Frieza was a better written character motivation than Cell. But with that being said, Dragon Ball, I think, not even arguably, is probably the best written series out of all three of them.
I'm gonna have to rewatch. I'm gonna have to go back
Yeah,
and watch it now.
it's gonna take you a second because of the spectacle that Z and Super is of like the craziness and whatever.
Yeah.
But seeing it this big and seeing Goku start from really nothing and growing into a teenager and all that, and seeing where Dragon Ball started in the tournaments and the martial art aspect of it, and where how Krillin and him became friends, and all the people you see as friends now, how they weren't his friends, like seeing all that take place is awesome. Dragon Ball is, I think, one of those overlooked because it's not spectacle.
Yeah, I was
So
debated. I think I started like a few episodes of it, and I was like, all right, I need to take a break because I watched so much of Z in like a
mhm,
short amount of time, and then
yeah,
right into Super, and I was
yeah,
like, let me venture into another one for a little
yeah,
bit.
for sure, for sure. One of the, okay, so because you saw that, you saw Demon Slayer.
Yeah,
I love Demon Slayer. Did you
it's
watch the
really
movie
good. I need to. I've been trying to get my
Mugen
hands
Train?
on it.
I know it's online. I know you can watch it online.
I'm thinking I have to get it because I was trying to watch it. I think it was like a couple months ago,
Mhm.
like, around when it like first came out, and I couldn't find it anywhere. But now it's
uh,
probably online.
Yeah, well, some of the streaming services, I don't think the streaming services have it, but I know you can like buy it on iTunes. I know some places they sell it. I think YouTube, you
Okay,
can buy it
yeah.
on YouTube or something like that. I'm not sure. Fun fact: here in Australia, we get a lot of the Japanese dubbed movies when they drop in Japan. So when they drop in Japan, we usually get them immediately. So I had saw the Mugen Train movie like 2 or 3 months before it came to the States. Funny enough, I did a review on it on my channel
Oh,
right after I watched it, and then Fuji TV, the news company from Japan, emailed me and was like, "Hey, can we do an interview with you on your thoughts on the movie? So I was like, sure. So I get interviewed by Fuji TV, and they were asking, do you think, there should be a U.S. run to try to get it nominated for an Oscar? Because what it needs is, it needs at least a week in the U.S. to be qualified to be, put into the Oscar question
Yeah.
for best animated film. And they're like, yeah, like they're talking right now about doing a 1 week run in Miami, because that's really all it was supposed to have, was a 1 week run. And then I think after that, after the whole interview that I had with them, it got super crazy in Japan. Like, it became the #1 movie of all time in Japan. So I think after that, they were like, fuck it, let's just do a huge run in the States. Because then it did really well in the States as well. So you need to watch it, and then you need to let me know what you think about it afterwards.
I do need to watch it. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. You're fine. I'm just saying, like, you should, if you enjoyed the anime, you'll enjoy the movie.
It was such a good show. I tried watching it immediately, and I was like, dang, I can't find this anywhere. And then I forgot. So now you reminded me that I have to go back and watch that before anything else comes out.
Yeah, I think you'll enjoy it quite a bit. So you said you like watching dub because you're like, I can't read. And trust me, it takes a while to develop that, for sure.
And like you talked about before, like the animation style.
Mm-hmm.
And I really like to appreciate that when I'm watching the shows.
That's
so I'm
fair.
like, if I could just sit there and kind of like zone out while like this, like looking at my TV, that's what I like. Not having to be like,
right, look up, and yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
No,
like, I'm gonna miss something.
No, I get it. And one of my so I'm a part of a film company called Ismahawk. We do like live action fight sequences of superheroes and stuff like that. We do stuff for TV series and things like that as well. But the director and founder of Ismahawk, Danny, he does all of our VFX as well. And he watches a lot of anime while he's doing while he's editing. But he has to watch it dubbed because he can't read and work at the same time. I always just get him all like, why are you watching that dub, bro? He's like, because I can't watch it and work. I was like, oh, that's fair. Like, that's fair. But I think some series, though, personally, the dub is better. Like, one of the series I think where the dub is better, if you get a chance, I'm not saying you need to do this immediately, but if you get a chance, there's a series called Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood.
I've heard of Full Metal Alchemist.
So,
I think I almost watched it one day, and I was like, let me start Demon Slayer.
Demon Slayer is excellent, for sure. Full Metal, if you watch it's Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, is like the more true to the manga series, because there is two of them. There's Full Metal Alchemist and there's Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. Think of Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood like Dragon Ball Z Kai. It's like what's in the manga is what's on the show. So I would recommend Brotherhood, but that series in English is amazing. Like, the voice acting is incredible in that series. So yeah, I think you would enjoy that quite a bit. If you like the things that you've listed right now, you'll absolutely love Brotherhood for sure.
Yeah, the dub definitely, there's definitely funny moments, I think, with the voice acting in dubs. Like, I think the main two that I've noticed, at least with it, is definitely My Hero. Definitely funny at some points, but I like it. And then Attack on Titan has some interest. Just hearing them yell. It makes me laugh sometimes. Like, it's funny.
I've tried to see a couple of AOT stuff in English, and I was like, I don't think this is for me. Sometimes it works really well. And then other times I'm not really a fan. And AOT, I think it passes. Like, I could watch it in English. I'm not like, Demon Slayer, I don't know how you did it. I'm not gonna lie. I don't know how you did Demon Slayer in English. That one was a little tough for me. Zenetsu's annoying in all of them, so it doesn't really matter. But
yeah, that voice is like, ugh.
He's really annoying in Japanese. Like, really annoying. You're like, fuck, bro. Yeah, he's really annoying. Okay. All right, so because you're not like you haven't seen a ton of anime,
Yeah, I'm still like I would say
But
like newbie, but I love it. Yeah, kind of
yeah,
thing.
no,
Like
that's fine. Um, so I'm assuming you like more of the action, like shonen types of anime, right? Like more of like that type of anime.
I guess so. Sometimes like I know when I was watching Z, only because I think these are like older. Like even with Naruto, the filler episodes kill me. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, but I don't feel like I could skip them. So I have to watch them kind of deal. Because some people are
Okay.
like, oh, just skip over. I'm like, I can't, I might miss something. Like
So okay, that's fair. I mean, so
yeah.
with Naruto, because I watched it late as well. I watched it in 2018. I did a reaction series on Naruto, Naruto Shippuden, and I I skipped all the filler. I was like, I had a filler list up of like episodes I need to not watch, but then you have certain people like, no, this actual filler arc is really good. You should watch this. It gives context to this. I'm like, all right, cool. So there are some things. Some of the filler lists will say like recommended, even though it is filler. They'll say this arc is actually really good, so you can watch it that way. But I do understand if you're like, look, I want to make sure I know all of the stuff that it. I mean, just know half of the first season. I mean, the first Naruto show, like just Naruto, not Naruto Shippuden.
Yeah, I
Half
think
of it is filler.
I started Shippuden, I think, because I was like, which one do I watch first? And I could only find Shippuden for some reason.
Oh,
So
so you
I was like,
so you didn't even watch
yeah,
Naruto.
I don't think so. No,
Oh
that's why I was like,
shit.
so once I realized that, I was like, I need to take a break because I'm like, I
Got it.
definitely messed up my soup here. Like, I need
Oh,
to.
do you have Crunchyroll?
I had Funimation.
Okay.
Um, so but I think I was watching Shippuden on Netflix at the time, and I was
Oh,
like, I
was it
don't
on
even.
Netflix in the States?
Yeah, it
Oh
was.
shit.
So I had it on there. So I was like, all right, I'll just start it.
That makes sense. I mean, I think Funimation has both. I believe so. We don't have we are I out here we have something called Anime Lab, but they actually just got bought
Mm.
by Funimation, so they're changing everything over. It's essentially the same company. It's just like their subsidiary company. Same shit. But I think on there Naruto is on there. So yeah, start with Naruto for sure. But
I'm pretty deep into Shippuden already.
it's all good. It's all good. You could just think of watching Naruto now as a big flashback.
Yeah.
It's all yeah, like yeah, and then we'll get back to
It'll
when
be
you
the
were in
same thing with
Shippuden.
Dragon Ball when I go back and watch the first Dragon
Exactly.
Ball.
Look, it's a big flashback. That's all it is. Flashback
Yeah.
arc. So out of the things that you have watched so far,
Yeah.
what would you say? Who would you say is your favorite character out of everything you've seen? Who's like a character you're like I like this character a lot?
Out of all the animes or just
Out of
Naruto?
all the animes that you've
Oh
watched.
man.
Yep, I know it's tough.
Oh, that's tough. Cause like for me, I don't know how to base it. I'm like, do I go back to like the my first favorite anime
I
character?
mean, okay, let's do it for each one. So
Yeah, we'll do
Dragon Ball Z. Who is your favorite in Dragon Ball Z?
Vegeta.
Okay, all right. So she's
That
your
is that
favorite.
was like my first anime love. My first like I loved it. The guy
Okay.
I was with at the time, like the guy I like he the first thing I saw from Dragon Ball was he dragged me to the Broly movie, and
Mm-hmm.
I was like, all right, I'll go. And then after the movie, I was like, that was so cool. Wait, like that was like I started geeking out, and I was like, I don't even know anything.
Right.
And that's when I restarted everything. But then I fell so in love with Vegeta that he started getting mad.
He started getting mad because you fell in love with Vegeta.
He's like, stop watching him. And I was like,
Oh, chill.
no.
Oh, chill.
Yeah, it
Okay.
was like a joke, but it was funny. He was like, "No, stop!" And I was like, I love him." Yeah, so he was my favorite. I have
Okay.
a my Funko of him somewhere. And if I'm in my brother's room right now. He has the Goku ones in here.
A.
But yeah,
Okay.
so Dragon
So
Ball would be Vegeta for sure.
Vegeta for okay. That's you. Honestly, I think that is most women fuck with Vegeta a lot
Yeah, I
because
think
he
so
just
too.
yeah for sure yeah. Um,
Yeah, he's the most romance type. I think that's why.
he's
Like
the most
angry.
he's the most romance type.
Okay, I
I
know.
think
Okay, that sounds bad.
I think it's because he's alpha as fuck is probably why.
That's what. Okay, so like, I guess in my head, I'm like, I guess that's what girls like. So for me, it's
Girls
like,
like it's the
yeah,
masculine like no, bro, like I'm doing this. Like he has that fuck you, I'm doing
he's
my
definitely
shit.
no
That
romantic, but like to me, it's
right.
romantic.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I completely get it. Completely get it.
Like when he went at Beerus, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
after he hit Bulma.
Mm-hmm.
To me, that was romantic. I was like, I hope someone would do that for me.
Yeah, I mean, but
So yeah,
that's like, yeah, you put hands on my woman, I'm giving you these hands. Like I completely get that.
exactly.
Completely get it. Yeah, for sure. You catching these hands. I don't care who you are. You catching these hands. For sure.
Sure.
Okay. All right.
So I
So
was that one.
what about
I'm
in
crying for that one.
up until what you've seen in Naruto Shippuden? Who is your favorite?
I'm a big fan of Shikamaru
Okay.
and then Gara as well.
Okay.
So those are my two there.
Nice.
I think it's because Shikamaru is just super smart, and then Gara, just because I love his like story, and I
Okay.
cried. I actually did cry for that one. So
Okay. But you
those
haven't
two.
seen him. You haven't seen him when he was a kid, though, huh?
They did the like little flashback stuff.
Flashback, right? But
Yeah, and ship it in.
you haven't really seen like. I can't. So Gara in Naruto in the first series, he was my favorite character for a good amount of Naruto.
Yeah.
His story is crazy good, like really fucking good. So yeah, that's dope. Okay, so you got Gara and Shikamaru. Shikamaru's fire.
Yeah, those two.
Yeah.
I don't know why I'm like these two seem different, and I don't know if this is an unpopular my one of my unpopular opinions on Naruto, but I find Sasuke very annoying.
Yo, you know what's funny? He's very split with people.
Yeah.
Either people love Sasuke or they're like, oh, bro, like. And I always went back and forth with him. I'm like, Sasuke's dope. I'm like, you're really getting on my fucking nerves right now, bro. Like, yeah, yeah, he's an interesting one for sure.
I think it's
Okay,
because like at the end of it, every character has their like, sob. Like I had a hard like
right,
their hardship story, right? And
right.
his is awful, like very terrible. But at a certain point, I'm like Naruto just keeps trying to help him. At least what I've seen in Shippuden. So he just keeps trying to like be there, and like he's just such a brat. Like, come on. I'm like, it's time to grow. Go to therapy. Let's go.
Yeah,
And then yeah.
no, that's
Like
fair.
if they had therapy in that show, I'd be interested if anything would have
Yeah,
happened.
hey, we need to sit down and talk about it. No, that's fair. What about Demon Slayer? What's like who's your favorite in Demon Slayer?
I think it's just because I find him funny. But Inosuke.
Okay, Inosuke is hilarious though.
But it's hard because I know there's still so many like characters that I still want to go into depth with that one.
Right.
Especially they just introduced. I'm not going remembering everything, but like that group that they got to at the end of season one.
Mm-hmm.
And I know one of them's in the I forget his name, but I know he's in the train
Mm-hmm.
like movie film. He's like one of the main ones. He has like the
Right.
fire hair.
Yeah.
And I'm
I think his name is
interested in that.
Rengeku or Rengoku or Rengeku. I think it's Rengeku. I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think so. That sounds right. And I'm curious to see more about him. So until I get more in depth with those characters, for now it's Inosuke.
No, Inosuke is hilarious though.
Yeah.
Demon Slayer is a show where the names are the hardest for me to remember.
Yes.
I'm
That's the
like, oh, I
only
like
one
that
I think I
character.
know.
Yeah, I'm like, fuck, like who's that character's name again? Like all like the names are just really hard for me to remember. But yeah, that's fair. What other? So what? Hold on. So you had those. You had Promise Neverland. Who's your character in that one?
In season one, I probably would have. Oh my gosh, why is his name blanking on me? It's Ray, Emma, and
Norman.
Norman. Yes,
Yeah.
Norman. I probably would have said Norman in the first one.
Mm.
Not after watching what I've seen from season two so
Okay.
far.
Okay.
Um, season two is a little tougher. I'm only like 3 episodes in, but now I'm starting to transition more to Ray. Emma's
Okay.
cool, but Emma's I don't know. I'm more like side characters, I guess. I'm not really a fan of like main characters.
Right.
Yeah. So I'd have to say probably like Ray.
That's fair.
Norman's switching up a bit from what I've seen.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I can't wait to see. I can't wait to get your thoughts on season 2 once it's done. I'm not gonna
I'm
say anything. I just want. I once it's completed and you see it, I want to then ask that. Do you read any manga? Is any manga that you really like, or you stay
yeah.
anime only?
Mainly anime. I've done research sometimes on the manga just so I can get like background. And I'm like, okay,
Right.
like what's gonna happen? What's the storyline with this character? But nothing reading. I'm not a big like reader, I guess. So even with comics, like I don't really read comics, but I'll do my research on it just so I can have like a little bit of a grasp on what's supposed to happen, I guess. Or
Right.
like character, stuff like that.
Right. No, that's fair. Well, before we get out of here, I wanted to ask you a final question.
Okay, here we go.
And a final question: what is the best MCU movie?
You hit me with it. Oh yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
What's your favorite MCU movie? What is it?
I'm gonna say a few different things just so
Okay.
I could get my opinion out there.
Yeah, it's all good.
If I had to go based on how many times I've watched a movie,
Okay.
it would be Infinity War.
Okay.
I strongly think it's better than Endgame.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be that one. If I had to go based off of just because, I know it sounds like my favorite character is Winter Soldier. He's actually top three. My favorite character is actually Thor.
Okay.
Um, that would be Ragnarok.
Okay.
If I had to go based off my comfort film that I
Mm-hmm.
watch when I need to feel better, that's Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2.
Okay.
An interesting pick, but I think that one is also in the top ones. This is so hard. Uh, I love the Captain. Okay, if I had to say trilogy, it'd be the Captain America trilogy.
Yeah, his trilogy
Oh,
is
this
awesome.
one. I think he had the best one. This one's
Yeah,
tough.
for sure.
All okay. So if I had to rank the movies that I just said,
Okay.
man, I'd probably guess I'd say Infinity War,
Okay.
just because it has everyone in it, and
Mm-hmm.
I've watched it the most.
Mm.
But those other ones are very important to me. So the Captain
Right.
America trilogy, and then we have Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, which I do watch an unhealthy amount as well.
Okay.
I personally love that villain. I know a lot of people think that's weird, but I think that villain might be one of my favorite villains ever to be introduced in the MCU.
Okay.
Because that guy was sick, very
Yeah.
twisted, and not
Yes.
a lot of people look at it that way.
Yeah.
um, but yeah, and then Thor Ragnarok was just an amazing film, and I think that's a big favorite for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And I know the Falcon, not the Falcon, the Winter Soldier one is another one for a lot of people, and I
Yeah.
think that's a great film too. But for me, I'm like I like the trilogy as a whole for sure.
Yeah.
Um, and I thought Civil War was also a good one. There's so many good ones, but yeah,
Yeah.
Infinity War, I guess, over or Civil War. I forgot about that one too. It
Mm.
might be Civil War. I changed my mind.
Okay.
Civil War. Yeah, you just like blew my brain with that question. I think I short circuited. But yeah, okay. Infinity War or Civil War? Only Civil War, I guess, because of the arguments that I love to get into with people on that one.
Right. Right.
It's fun.
Yeah. I mean, it's tough. It's tough because there's a lot of really really solid films.
Yeah.
Um, and let's say three of the movies that you mentioned were all directed by the Russo brothers.
Mm-hmm.
So Winter Soldier, Civil War, and Infinity War were all directed by the Russo brothers. So that would make sense. The one of the crazy things too with Ragnarok, to your point. So in Australia, obviously Chris Hemsworth's Australian,
Yeah.
but that entire movie was casted literally here where I live in Gold Coast. Primarily, almost all the actors in that movie were from Australia or from New Zealand. So a lot of the accents you hear in that movie are Australian or New Zealand. Um, I keep forgetting the guy's name. Is it Krog or
Korg.
Korg?
Korg,
Yeah.
yeah.
So Korg, fun fact, is Taika Waititi,
Hmm.
who is the director of the movie. But he's from New Zealand. So a lot of the stuff that he's saying, a lot of the little quips that he says and stuff, those are like Australian, New Zealand jokes in banter. So in the
Interesting.
theater, people are dying laughing here because it's Australian and Kiwi humor. So it's like it was like the coolest thing to kind of be in the theater with people that are completely represented in the movie, and it's like they're watching their culture be in a superhero movie. It's actually really interesting. So I thought that was a really cool experience. My favorite is Infinity War.
Okay, here we go. We're good then, right?
My favorite is Infinity War. The reason why, and I know people ask me this a lot, but the reason why is every character that we've seen had some kind of story development X, Y, and Z, right? But
Yeah.
Infinity War was Thanos' movie. Thanos was the hero of the movie, and the Avengers were the villain. And I loved the concept of that, where he was trying to do right by setting the universe, restarting this whole idea of, look, we don't have enough resources. This is what it is. We have to do this. This is not personal. This is what we have to do for existence to continue, right? So he was on this mission and he's losing friends and family, and he's like, look, like obviously when he had to throw Gamora off uh in Vormir, he was like, you know, that moment was crazy, you know. And then
Yeah.
even after the end, when after the snap and he's seeing young Gamora, and she was like, what did it cost? And he was like, everything. Like, there was just something about that movie and his storyline in that was so brilliant to me. And then at the end, him having a hero shot of him sitting down, and you know, the music that comes in, and he's just in the garden chilling and just looking like he accomplished what he needed to do and he saved the universe. I just thought it was so brilliant. I love that movie. I love that movie so much.
Well, then too, like the whole theater just like falling silent, like
Oh
what? Like,
yeah, yeah, for sure.
nothing beat that. I was like, wow.
Yeah, like I remember leaving that theater and people were just quiet. Like,
Yeah.
what the fuck just happened? Like what? Like yeah,
Infinity War like was so different compared to, because it's like it's funny that I've never actually looked at it that way, where it's like they were the villains and he was the hero. That's an interesting, like
they
I've never even heard.
kept trying to stop him from doing it. And he's
Yeah.
like, I have to do this. She was like, you're crazy. He's like, no, I'm the only one that understands that we need to do this. Like it's brilliant.
It's very interesting, and I think it was so funny because like to me it's like they lost, but no, you're like, no, he won.
It's
I love that. That's so funny.
yeah, I think the best part about it was no movie prior did you get any backstory on Thanos. You got all of his backstory in that movie. You got
Yeah.
why he decided to do it, what happened with Titan, and he even said on that he's like, look, we were running out of resources here, and also he was like, I had said, hey, we do a lotto at random, so it's fair to rich and poor alike, right? He was like, it's just a random selection, and we remove half of the people, and it became a morality situation, not a logical situation. He's thinking logically, right? And you had that conversation he had with Doctor Strange of, he's like, so you basically were saying you wanted to wipe out half of your planet, like, which was a moral argument of right or wrong versus the logical, like, we have a finite amount of resources, guys. Like, this can't go on forever. We just can't keep doing this. So I just love the fact of at every turn he had opposition. I need to get this stone. Nope, you're not getting it. And he has to figure out a way to get it. And I loved it. I loved it so much. I just thought it was a brilliant movie. I've seen the movie at least 20 times. At
Yeah.
least.
If you
I
have
saw it
Disney
seven
Plus,
times in the
it's
theater.
dangerous.
I saw it
Seven
seven
times in the
times in the
theater.
theater. Yeah.
I think I
Seven
only
times.
saw it twice in the theater.
I went
I,
crazy.
on Disney Plus, probably at least 50.
Yeah, it's such a good movie. Um, Even though, and I agree with you, I think, I think as an individual movie, it is better than Infinity War, than Endgame.
Yeah.
I think I consider it almost like a double feature though, because it's like a part two of that.
Yeah.
I think in that regard, and maybe an end of a saga or like a series, Endgame is unreal. Like it's fucking it needs the other
Yeah.
movies to exist for it to make sense. Like you can't just jump into Endgame and watch it. Infinity War kind of stands alone. You get the idea of him trying to get the stones and everybody's opposition trying to stop him. But Endgame needs Infinity War. It also needs the other movies because of the
Yeah.
time travel aspect. So you have to have seen the MCU or at least the Avengers movies to kind of get an idea of what the fuck is going on in that movie. So I think by definition it isn't as good as Infinity War as a movie, but I
Yeah.
think as an end of a series, like I guess an end of a trilogy or end of a series, I don't think there's another movie that can top it. It's crazy. The fan service and that shit is ridiculous.
I think the thing with Endgame too was I think it gave a taste of like that little multiverse thing, not really, but time travel, I guess, where it's like,
Mm-hmm.
oh my gosh, there's two Captain Americas fighting.
Right.
Like,
Right.
that was fun. And for me, it was like, it was such a fun movie to watch. But then, like, after I left, I was like, damn, because my favorite character was Thor.
Right.
So I was like, why'd they do him like that? And they had the best Cap scenes ever, like with the hammer. I think I might have screamed, and and then to have him go out like that, I'm hoping they try and fix it a little bit still. But his ending was not the best. But then like the whole thing with Iron Man and his ending, like I cried. And then the I Love You 3000, like everything they did was so good. I think it was just very few things that people took problem with. Like for one, that whole that one part in the war where all the women just kind of got together.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, where were all of you that you could just be together?
I mean, look, I get it. I get what they're trying to do, right?
Yeah.
It was a little heavy-handed, but it was like, okay, I get it. That's cool. But it was heavy-handed for sure. It could have been less obvious. Like
I was like, Marvel, I was like, you're better than this. Come on.
You know what I think it was? I think it was probably it was what they said. Like, how are you going to get it through there? Like, she has help. And then it's all it was just very like, okay. Like, it didn't.
Infinity War, they did it so perfectly when they were in the war, but it was Black Widow, Okoye, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to pronounce her name, Okoye. And then Scarlet Witch. It was perfect.
Yeah.
Perfectly done. And then to go from that and then go to Endgame, and I'm like, okay, the spirit was
She
there.
has help. She has help. And it's like, okay. You didn't even need to say it. Like, if you would have just, if the same sequence would have happened without them all walking up, right? Like, if it was just all of them charging, nobody would have even cared. It would have been like, yo, this is fire. Because they would have understood what it was. Not.
So I'm like, there's no way you were all in the same place at the same time when there's like a billion like people fighting.
Yo, that's actually comedy. No, I completely agree. But to your point, the hammer sequence, like just taking that from the tie-in with Ultron when Cap was trying to pick it up and it moved, right? You're like, oh shit, what? And he looked at it like, what? Hold on, what? And he's like, ah. So I love that moment. And that was a huge comic book moment as well. Like,
yes,
comic book fans were like super hype about it just because of, in the comics, he has done that in the past. So that was really cool. Avengers Assemble is always, anytime I watch that movie, when I hear that part, I get so excited. Like,
I'll replay it in the gym sometimes just to like give me like motivation.
That's your motivation?
A few of the scenes, yeah. So it's definitely that scene, Avengers, like them just all coming together. Yeah. Then we have the one in Infinity War where Thor lands in Wakanda.
Bring me Thanos. One. That motherfucker. Yes. The crowd here went crazy because obviously he's Australian. So people were like, what the fuck? Like he pops up like a G. You're like, oh shit. Yeah. Thor's entrance on that movie was fucking amazing.
It was so good.
Yeah.
That one.
So okay.
Oh. And then I guess in Guardians of the Galaxy 2, when Quill, Star Lord, goes after and the Chain Song by Fleetwood Mac comes on and
Yeah.
just charges it. I love that one too.
Yeah. Yeah. Guardians is one of those movies that was a pleasant surprise, I think, for everyone. Because
Yeah.
even in the comic book space, they're not A-list characters. They're like
No.
maybe C-list at best. So for them to come out with this group of characters and make everybody love them is a testament to fantastic casting and writing. Like those movies are brilliant.
Until Infinity War, when everyone was like, Star Lord's a terrible person.
Well, but that's the thing though, where I loved it. I loved the fact that that happened.
Yeah.
So because I think that's like he's a human. He's part human, so like he's like, yo, what the fuck? Like, so that to me, and it fit his character. So that's why I was like, no, this actually makes sense. This makes sense a lot. So yeah, I was completely okay with it. But I understand that people are just like, well, why would that happen? It's like, because he's a human, bro. That's
well, people
why.
were like sending like the Chris Pratt death threats, and I was like, dude, I was like, come on. I was like, are you serious?
How could you do this, Chris Pratt? How could you? How could you kill us like that?
I was like, it makes so sense. I'm like, come on, if someone just like killed the love of your life, because he loved Gamora. I was like, if someone just killed the love of your life, you're telling me you're not gonna like throw it, like have an attack. Like I probably definitely would. I'm like, even Doctor Strange said like that's how it had to go down. Like that was the only option. He knew it was gonna happen. I think we actually don't know.
Yeah, I think he actually. So here's my thing before we wrap. In Ultron.
Mm-hmm.
So check this out.
That's a good one too. A lot of people don't like that one. I like it.
I hate Ultron, but I think that movie. I think that movie is a rehash of the first movie, but that's a whole other conversation. But when Scarlet Witch does that shit to Tony, right? And Tony has this vision of everybody getting fucked up. People assumed that was Infinity War, but that was Endgame. And the reason why I said it was Endgame is Captain America's shield gets broken in Endgame, not in Infinity War. So if you look at that sequence, his shield is broken. So
that's true, yeah.
So in my head, I'm like, okay, to your point, if Doctor Strange is like, oh shit, this is the only way it happens, he already saw Endgame already. That's the only way for them to get to that point. So
you're giving me a lot to think about now. I thought I had a lot to think about already. Now I have even more.
It's crazy. It's so crazy. Like, yeah, so super crazy. But look, I appreciate you chopping it up with me.
Thank you for talking with me because you definitely opened my mind to like a bunch of what ifs for myself. So thank you.
No, look, I think first and foremost, like being a creator on TikTok is something that I think that people just need to understand is a thing. And also that it's a new medium, and I wanted to start bringing TikTok creators on to one, have a discussion about that, but two, just to kind of get more of a perspective from these creators, even if it's not just what you create, but who you are as a person, what you're into, and stuff like that. So I appreciate your time. If people want to follow you, where can they follow you online?
Okay, so pretty much my name at Cassilyn Scott on Instagram. And once you're there, I have links to everything else. So TikTok's the same thing, except for Twitch. Twitch, I'm Final Fatale. That's that name.
Final Fatale.
That's my superhero name. So.
Sweet.
Nice. Yeah, that's it.
Well, I appreciate you. And guys, we'll catch you guys on the next one.
Thank you.